Good evening. Welcome to our City Council meeting on February 7th, 2022. Glad everybody's here this evening. We look forward to the conversation and the different recognitions, so we're very excited about that. We're going to start off with the call of order, which I just did, and then invocation and pledge allegiance will be Councilmember Smith. So.
Let us stand. Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for waking us this morning and watching over us throughout the day. It is by your grace and mercy that we can work together for the good and well-being of our community. This is an opportunity to celebrate the contributions and service by our community members, make important decisions to positively impact our community, and when it's all said and done, we will remember to give thanks to all of those who participated, contributed, volunteered, or just said a kind word to help us reach our goal of providing services that are accountable and accessible and governed by sound professional and ethical principles in order to preserve and enhance the superior quality of life in our communities. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're going to first turn it over to Chief, which we're going to talk about the Police Officer of the Year. Is our mayor also here? If you do not know Mayor Womack, you want to come on up as well? That'd be awesome. We greatly appreciate both of y'all taking the time to recognize the Police Officer of the Year. So I'm going to turn it over to the two of you, if that's okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, Sergeant Ashley Wilbur is our Police Officer of the Year for Clemson Police Department. She was hired here September 26th of 2018 and promoted to Sergeant on November 1st of 2020. She works night shift on Team 2. She's very well regarded by her shift as well as the civilian staff that work with her, and they elected her Officer of the Year. Before we give her the Officer of the Year, I'm also going to present her with one of the awards that she won this year, one of the many reasons why she got Officer of the Year. And this is the Medal of Valor. Sergeant Ashley Wilbur. This highest honor is awarded in recognition to the exceptional bravery exhibited by Ashley Wilbur on February 11th, 2021. Sergeant Ashley Wilbur, during the performance of her duties, acted without concern for her own safety when confronted with the threat of great bodily harm and prevented ensuing harm or death to a fellow officer. So she was a recipient of this earlier and has gone on vacation and had all kinds of fun, and just now been able to give her the award. So here's your award, and then here is the actual medal and the ribbon. So we'll put that all there. And congratulations.
And I don't know if anybody's here from Blue Ridge Co-op. I know Zach was going to bring you from one this year. This is from the Pecos County Municipal Association. And Blue Ridge Co-op is the one that actually provides this each year. And we normally would have a dinner in November, and that didn't happen because of COVID. So we're following up now with your award, and also there's some cash money in here. So you probably need that along with this. Thank you. Appreciate it. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Would you hold your breath, John?
We don't want to see Fran.
Here's a giant handful of stuff for you to
I was gonna say,
carry
it came in a
around.
pizza box.
Okay, so we'll move right into the swearing in for Officer Mitchell Frazier. So, John Mitchell Frazier grew up about 10 minutes outside of Clemson in 6 Mile. He joined the Marine Corps and graduated from after he graduated from Daniel High School. Met his wife while he's in the Marine Corps, got married in 2015 and moved back to South Carolina in 2016. They had their first child, John Luke, who I saw earlier. He's behaving well. You don't take after your father. Sorry, I'm just kidding. In 2018, and currently have another one due in August. Congratulations. He began his law enforcement career in 2020 at the Clemson University Police Department, and he's very thankful and excited to work for the Clemson Police Department, looking for a long career. So, we'll first do the oath of office. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you're qualified, according to the Constitution of the state, to exercise the duties of the office to which you've been appointed, and that you will, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States, so help you God? Thank you. All right. I'm now going to read you the Law Enforcement Officer's Code of Ethics. Okay, and at the end, if you agree, you say you agree. If you don't, you're fired. Okay, you ready? As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, and will behave in a manner which does not bring discredit to me or my agency. I will remain courageous, calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life, I will be exemplary in obeying the law and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, political beliefs, aspirations, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. And with no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice, or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of police service. I will never engage in acts of bribery, nor will I condone such acts by other police officers. I will cooperate with all legally authorized agencies and their representatives in the pursuit of justice. I know that I alone am responsible for my own standard of professional performance and will take every opportunity to enhance and improve my level of knowledge and competence. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. Do you agree with these statements? Oh, you're still hired. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chief. All right, next I'm honored to do recognitions for Black History Month honorees. And I'm first going to read a proclamation, and then I'm also going to talk to Councilman Smith. She's going to also add a few remarks as well. But I'll start off with what, like I said, is an honor to read. The first recognition of service is Enos Little. This is a proclamation. Whereas Enos Marie Little was born July 28, 1955, to the late Louis Bubba Reese and the late Henrietta Freeman Reese. Whereas Miss Little began school during segregation, attending an all-black elementary school, East End Elementary in Seneca, from grades 1 through 6. Whereas by the time Miss Little moved on to junior high, the schools had been integrated, and she attended Clemson Junior High School for grades 7 and 8, and then went on to Daniel High School. Whereas students during this time faced added struggles to the already turbulent adolescent years as they navigated through the challenges of integration. Whereas during her 10th grade year, Miss Little decided to try out for the cheerleading squad and became the first black cheerleader at Daniel High School and remained a cheerleader until she graduated from Daniel High. Whereas Miss Little's willingness to pave the way opened the door for other young black women to participate in cheerleading as well. Now, therefore, we, Clemson City Council, do hereby recognize Enos Little for her Clemson community spirit and her honor her boldness with the Black History Community Service Award. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed this 7th day of February 2022. Congratulations. We would love for you if you'd like to say something. I mean, we're kind of putting you on the spot. Sorry. Sorry, you don't have to.
Right. Well, I would like
And if
to
you
say
want to
thank you
take
for
us
this
through-
recognition. It's been a long time coming. But thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you're okay, we're going to take a picture. Is that okay? Yes, ma'am.
Everyone, if the family would like us to take
Yeah, do
pictures,
you have anybody with you? You want to come up for the picture as well?
My
congratulations.
family's here with me.
This is great. All right.
Sorry your brother's a Cowboys fan. Congratulations.
So our next recognition of service is Horace Littlejohn, and unfortunately Adrian, his granddaughter, could not be here tonight, but we're going to go ahead and recognize, and we'll make sure she gets this to the family, for her family. So Whereas Horace Littlejohn owned and operated a nightclub along Old Greenville Highway called Littlejohn's Grill from the late 40s to the late 1960s. Whereas Littlejohn's Grill served as a welcome stop for African American musicians on the Chitlin Circuit, offering hot meals and lodging to travelers during segregation era. Whereas crowds of 1,500 plus would often gather inside and outside the club to hear the blues and jazz greats that performed there, including Ray Charles, Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Little Richard, Mac Arnold, and James Brown. Whereas the city's audience was often racially mixed, with white patrons in the balcony and black patrons on the main floor, blurring the strict segregation rules of the time. Whereas Horace Littlejohn and Littlejohn's Grill was integral to the fame of many big stars of jazz, blues, and rock and roll. Whereas though the grill eventually fell into decline and was torn down in the mid-1990s, the location is now home to the Littlejohn Community Center, which is run by Horace's granddaughter, Adrian. And whereas the Littlejohn legacy lives on in the Greater Clemson Music Festival, which is held every April, as multiple venues in and around Clemson to celebrate the area's legacy and highlight local performers. Now, therefore, we, Clemson City Council, do hereby recognize Horace Littlejohn for his dedication to bringing black entertainment to the Clemson community and honor his legacy with the Black History Community Service Award. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand is and calls the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed this 7th day of February 2022.
If I could say, Mayor, thank you. This is how we were recognizing Black History Month honorees. So we do have a link on the website for individuals to go and fill out a nomination form if they would like to nominate a member of the community, someone who is currently doing some phenomenal things to enhance the lives of all our community members, but specifically trying to move forward those in the black community, as well as anyone historically who has gone on, but we know have done some wonderful things, just like Mr. Littlejohn. So please keep that in mind, but you can go to the website and complete the nomination form so that we can go ahead and review those for our next council meeting. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the information, and absolutely, it's great to recognize two wonderful individuals. So we will next go into our public session, and if you'd like to dial 653-9886, but I'm going to turn it over again to Councilmember Smith. You just pretty much got the show.
And then I'm done. But turn over, if anyone would like to make a public comment, this is our opportunity to do so. It would be anything that is not on our policy action agenda already for discussion. So if you would like to make a comment, this is the time to do that. We ask that you come to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. And we do need your name and address. You'll say that verbally, but also sign in as well, so that Beverly will have that for the record. And we want to give you that opportunity. So anyone like to come and say anything to council on your behalf? And if not, I do have one comment that did come in, and I will still read it into the record so we have it. I know we've addressed or are looking into it, but I will still read it in for the record. No one, so we received this comment from Linda Dove, North Clemson and Wigginton Street. Please consider removing the extra one-way entrance road from North Clemson onto Wigginton, where they are proposing to remove the sidewalk and replace with a curb. This area could be incorporated into the landscape area. I feel like the 2 entrances are an accident hazard, and it would be a safer and better design to have only the main entrance. It looks like money designated for a curb along that area could be used to incorporate that area into a proper intersection. An additional section of sidewalk would be needed across the removed one-way road along North Clemson. Thank you for your consideration of this suggestion. And that is the comment that was submitted, and I do know Andy and staff are looking into that already, so I appreciate you all following up on that. If there are no other comments, I will turn it back over and close out the public session.
All right, thank you again.
Public comment session.
That's right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for January 12, 2022. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I move we approve minutes as written.
Second. Second, okay, I heard second. Any other comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Next is the possible approval of the January 19th, or January 18th, sorry. It's in my eyes sometimes. January 18th of 2022. So, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 18th.
Second.
Okay, all right, thank you both. And any further discussion?
And yeah, I do have one correction that has in here that Chris Hermiter had spoke during the meeting, but we spelled it with a C and it's spelled with a K. So I know it's just a small error.
Chris, we're getting you set up. We're going from a C to a K, so
Spelled it the
you're
correct
good.
way. Other than that, I didn't have any other.
So, but we'll make that change. Any other comments, discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll go into reports and discussion agenda. The first one is Councilmember Watt's going to give us an update on the January 26th broadband planning meeting, which has been great to hear.
Yes.
So,
Thank you. We had a great meeting. For those of you who do not know, Dr. Jim Stritzinger is the Director of South Carolina Broadband in the Office of Regulatory Services. Jim came up with Casey Sims and presented an incredibly detailed set of information to us. And I don't mind saying that Andy was right. When you hear Jim for an hour, your head starts to kind of steam and steam comes out because there's a lot of information. What we talked about is he presented the concepts of funding that's available for the city. We do actually have a couple of areas of the city that don't have internet or certainly have spotty internet. Our friends, particularly in War Branch, I know we have heard from them in the past. And then also the option for owning and then leasing our own fiber, which would mean, that means that instead of really the residents being under one particular internet service provider where you have no options and you have no control over pricing, instead the city would be a partner. We would not run the internet service, but we would own the infrastructure. And it would give the city a new revenue stream, which I think is a really interesting concept. We are very fortunate in the city of Clemson that we have two nationally recognized experts, Dr. John Bellato and Dr. Jim Bottom. I've talked to the mayor and to Andy, and we're going to create a working group to start to move forward on creating how this plan could work. The goal is to collaborate and develop a plan that includes grant funding for our areas without service. We are eligible for state grants, city investment, and different lease options. So if you think about how that could go, it's almost like laying a new sewer line or new water line. Gradually would happen over time, not magically. We also want to think about how this would bring affordable options, particularly to our businesses. There are ways that we could create incentives. There are also ways that we could fund in our under-resourced communities that we can offer different options. So essentially this gives the city a partnership with the internet service provider instead of just all of us being a customer. I think that pretty much sums it up. We are going to, our next steps are that we are going to meet and start to lay out how this plan could work and what the ultimate costs and benefits would be.
here's the deck if you need it, if you want to look us.
Yeah, we should share it. I think it's publicly available now on the website. I encourage you to look at that. The presentation is there, and of course you can contact me or any of us with any questions. This is a really interesting opportunity for the city that I admit when I started this quest, I did not even know would be a possibility.
Questions, Kathy?
So will this be just the city or the other cities around us? Is it a regional?
This would be, it's just city by city. Now, there are other cities that are doing this, and there are other cities that are interested in this. So we would not be a guinea pig, thank goodness. There's precedent for this. We are talking with John Bellato and the university to talk about some living, learning, research opportunities. Opportunities for our engineers, opportunities for public administrators. And so, but yes, we are not alone. I hope that the city of Central, Andrew has expressed some interest in this for the city of Central. That's the only one I can speak to.
And we did share, we shared that presentation with Andrew,
Yeah.
The mayor, but it was obviously specifically for Clemson, so.
It was sort of close enough.
Well, that's close.
Yeah, it was.
It was right close, you're exactly right. Other questions? Thank you, Catherine, for taking the initiative, taking the lead on this. We greatly appreciate it. It's a great effort. We definitely need to enhance our ability within our area.
We definitely need to.
Next is discuss local conditions and assess the need to reinstate the mask ordinance. Councilmember McGuire.
So first, thank you to Mary for sending us the data and what you've been doing. It looks like things are stable. Generally, I think that's a fair statement. So at this point, I think we need to just be vigilant, but not bring about any changes.
Comments, questions for Fran? No? Okay. All right. We'll just go into the next item. Okay. Next, Beverly, you're going to talk about an amendment to the city code of ordinance for special events.
Yes, sir. Currently, our special events in our ordinance requires all vendors to get a business license, and that's been a little cumbersome for not only the vendors but the host and trying to get that together. If somebody's going to come into town just for a one-day event, this would allow just the host or the sponsor doing that event to get one license. Other municipalities do this type of thing, so I'm sorry that the ordinance itself ended up looking kind of messy because we did make some clerical changes. There was some definitions that weren't in alphabetical order, and I promise to have a better looking ordinance on the next round. But it's just to simplify the process is really what we're trying to do. You have any questions?
So are the sponsors of the events agreeable to this? Is this an issue for them to have to do this, or they're okay with doing this?
I am sure, I don't have an event current to refer to, but I'm sure with how we've had to pursue them to get their vendors, they either take the applications themselves and try to get them to fill them out and get them back to us. They're in a crunch time. I'm sure that they would be appreciative for the change to just be able to do one application and get the license and be done.
Beverly just said that like June 19th, Juneteenth, that came up, and this is part of the discussion. Yeah, and it was very challenging to get everybody, especially last minute. When you're talking about a vendor fair, if somebody could do one license for the whole, it makes it so much easier. And I think your vendors would agree with that. Even though I wasn't one of the vendors, but I would say that they would like it to be more efficient. So.
Yeah. The experience we've had in the last couple of years has definitely shown us that this would be a better situation.
Yeah, I would agree with you for Juneteenth as well as I know when we did the pop-up, just having the one vendor, the
Yes.
one license
Yes.
for the special event, rather than each individual have to get their own license, their own business license. It just streamlines the process too, because it's just that special event that they're doing.
Right. And then for the vendor too, I don't know if these events require registration. Some do, some don't. But they're having to register with the host, and then they have to come to the city, and so it just cuts out that extra step. Anything else?
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Beverly. Thank you for clarifying that. Andy, next is staff reports.
Got a couple for you.
There you go.
February 17th, conversations with council, 6:30 at African American Museum. Notice the change of date. We moved it up a week, and that is so it doesn't conflict with the police advisory board. Pickens County Municipal Association, February 28th, 6 o'clock in Easley. Let Beverly know if you want to attend that. And I also would like to announce that Lindsay has graduated from Municipal Clerk School and is now a certified clerk in the state of South Carolina.
You want to give us a speech? All right, everybody. Just checking, just checking.
What are you, crazy?
All right, thank you, Andy. Any other reports? All right, we'll move into policy action agenda. And if you'd like to dial in, it's 653-9886, 2-minute limit per speaker. Again, it's 653-9886. The first item is item A, consider second reading of ordinance to amend the city code for the payment period in section 1283 hospitality fee payment and collection, and the hospitality tax payment and collection, and the local accommodations tax and collection. Leslie.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See, you came in before I went through all that. I love it. All right.
So there have been no changes to the ordinance as it was presented previously. And basically a recap is it gives businesses the opportunity to have 10 days to pay without a penalty instead of just a rebate and then a penalty. So.
Any questions for Leslie? If not, would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading of ordinance, section 1283 for hospitality fee payment and collection, and ordinance section 1287 for hospitality tax payment and collection, as well as section 1244 for accommodations tax and collection, approved as presented.
Second.
Got Bob. Okay. Any other comments, discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much. Next, we'll consider first reading of ordinance to edit the comprehensive plan to clean up formatting, numbering errors, and to remove redundancies. Todd.
Good evening, council. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We had the public hearing on it, I guess, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and there were a couple of modifications made since then, all related to some numbering issues, and they've all been corrected and posted online, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Todd? Somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we move forward and accept the comprehensive plan as it has been updated, and move forward.
Second.
Second. All right. Any further discussion, comments? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Todd, thank you very much. Thank you, Leslie. All right. Next is item C, consider first reading of ordinance to amend the Housing and Community Life Committee, clarifying resident eligibility to include the Bishop Branch voting district in Anderson County. So here's your chance to give your speech.
You'll hear it from me in
I won't say it anymore. I'm stopping. Cut me off.
As we moved through this new ordinance, we neglected to consider a strip of land on the back parts of the Delwood neighborhood that has a Clemson address but votes in the Anderson 3 precinct. So the only change to this ordinance is the italics to the left that just says if you're in the Bishop Branch voting precinct that you can apply for that seat on this housing committee. That's the only change.
Thank you for including my people. We appreciate it.
Any questions, comments? If not, would somebody like to make a motion?
Consider first reading of an
Thank you, Bob.
ordinance to amend the Housing and Community Life Committee, clarifying residency eligibility to include the Bishop Branch voting district in Anderson County as presented.
Second.
Whoever wants it. Y'all said it simultaneously. So. All right. Any further discussion, comments? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Next, other policy items. Consider a funding request from the Sunrise Rotary Club to provide seed money for the first annual Sunrise Rotary 5K event this Saturday, 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. Councilmember Smith.
Yes, we're excited, and thanks for the members who are here. As you all requested, you wanted us to come back with some requests, the budget for what we're planning to do, and we provided that information. So far, just to give you a little update, last time I checked, we had 140 registrants, and I don't know if that's changed, but that's actually pretty good. We have registrants that are signed up, they're represent Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, as well as South Carolina, so we're really excited about that. And I even thought, well, maybe those could be students, but when you look at the age, not necessarily, because they're a lot older than what you would consider, unless they're non-traditional students. So what you see as we submitted a breakdown of the total, it's not actually a request, but it's what our budget and what we anticipate the costs are, about $8,330. But what we're requesting is $5,000 from the fee, the accommodations fee to help with the first annual event of our 5K. And that will cover the traffic control, equipment, rental, setup, breakdown, police overtime, and the course certification fee. So that would be able to help us with our first event. So that's what I'm presenting to the council this evening.
I know there was good discussion last time. Any comments, questions? And we do have numerous members from the club here, so.
I think it's good to support a first-time event. I think once that course is certified, it actually will be used for other groups to run as well. And I think a further conversation would be to, for the traffic control, I agree with supporting that. I think that's something we might ought to consider, some cones and investments. Again, if we're going to grow in a sports tourism manner, I think there's things we could use continually. So I think it's money well spent on this.
Yeah, I just ask that we get the numbers together so we know what we need to purchase to do that on our own, because that $3,800, that's a big number for any race to have to do. And I think we ought to get there with that. And it wouldn't be a huge investment to do that and be helpful to grow this type of thing. So,
I totally agree.
Any other comments? If not, would somebody like to make a motion? There you go.
I'll make a motion that we consider a funding request from the Sunrise Rotary Club to provide seed money for the first annual Sunrise Rotary 5K. The Cupid Shuffle.
Second.
5,000.
5,000.
A second.
Okay. Any further discussions? Discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'll see y'all. Well, I'll see you. You'll see some of us Saturday morning.
Thank you. Yeah, some of you all can come out and cheer us on.
We wait till some people leave and we start again. So, see you later.
Bye-bye, Patrick.
Next is consider approval of waiver of the open container ordinance for the Alumni Welcome Back Festival on Friday night of March 25th, 2022. Chief.
I think the only reason why my name is on this is because I sent the agenda item in based on the application that was submitted, but the Clemson Alumni Association is actually the one that's making the request. Clemson Alumni Association is the one that's making a request for their event that's planned on the 25th. And in the application, it simply said similar to what we did for the, what was it called, something on the Avenue? Outside on the Avenue. So to allow for people to basically drink alcohol in the street. And I know that Lindsay has met with them and set the parameters as to what that would be.
I thought that was good. Captain Bird was there as well. So that was good. The specific parameters for the event, the Alumni Association appreciated that guidance as well. So I know Lindsay's here too, if you got other questions about the event.
They're setting the whole thing up, Ryan. I mean, our only involvement is you've allowed the street to be closed, we allow the alcohol, and they're kind of handling the rest. Is that entertainment?
Lindsay, you might want to come up on, I mean,
maybe it's kind of a little overview of the event just for people.
yeah,
who
it's
don't
kind of
know anything about
overlap,
it.
so.
Yeah, so they are doing everything. We'll close the street at 5. They'll come in. Right now, he's gonna get the size of the stage. They're looking to see if we can't get the stage in front of the planning building, because if we do that, then, or the police substation, if we do that, then we can push the road closure as close to 5 as we can, because they can physically put the stage in front of the substation. If we've got to put the stage in the intersection of North Clemson, we're going to have to close the street probably at 3:30, and we want to avoid doing that. That's a long time to have the street closed. But they're doing everything. We will do the road closures, we'll have the police presence, we will do the wristbands like we normally do, where the bar owners and the bartenders are the ones that are IDing and banding people. It should be pretty turnkey. I mean,
Do we have a template that everybody has to agree to for these events now, or is it ad hoc, one by one? Like if I wanted to approach you tomorrow about an event, is there something you say, here's the standard operating procedure? No. Okay. We might want to consider that
love
as
to develop one.
we have more of these events. Okie dokie.
And I think you brought up a great point, that this is where Lindsay, and I thought Captain Hurd, and also the Alumni Association did a good job meeting. They clarified the expectations for everybody, good town and gown. It's a great event that they're bringing in. I don't know how many heads of beds, but there will be people here coming in Thursday night through Saturday. They have many different other engagements throughout, but our main thing is Friday night with Craven Mellon, who is a local band, started here in Clemson. So it should.
Roughnecks will open
it
for
should.
them. I'm not sure who Roughnecks
Yeah,
is.
it
but
should
that's-
bring out.
got nothing on that.
It should bring out not only. I mean, this is a slower time because the students will be coming back from spring break later on, possibly even later on the weekend. But hopefully, residents and community will enjoy an outside show on Friday night. So,
Yeah, because I was gonna say probably students are starting coming back Saturday or Sunday.
so it'd be.
They don't
Yeah.
usually come back on that.
So that's why we feel like this is a great opportunity, and then obviously
It should be good.
patronize our businesses not only downtown but throughout Clemson, because the events cater all around Clemson as well. So it's a good opportunity.
So even though it's sponsored by the Alumni Association, it's a public event.
It
All
is.
residents.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is open to the public.
Multi-generational.
They do have registration for the spring break week. There's a $35 registration fee, but you get more than, I mean, it gets you tours and a swag bag and all this fun stuff. So if you want to register as a citizen so that you can do these things that the alumni is doing over the course of the week, you can do that, and we'll put that on our promotional stuff, but you do not have to register in order to come downtown and enjoy the event.
Do they have any estimate how many people they think they're gonna have?
We didn't talk about that.
They're hoping in year one. This is something that trying to, because reunions haven't been like a thing that's been happening outside of like 50-year
golden
groups.
tire,
So
right, yeah.
this is going to be like kind of an alternative reunion deal that they're going to start trying to do. And I think they think if they get 500 people to come in from outside in year one, that'll be great. And and think they can go and grow from there as word gets out. But
Are there any other athletic things going on that weekend?
there are not.
None.
There are not.
Not even a baseball game?
No baseball game.
Yeah.
So no baseball, no softball, nothing? Okay, wow.
It's come have spring break where you can go relive your downtown years
Glory days.
without a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds.
To make you feel older.
You won't feel that way
I
because
don't need
you're
any help.
around
Thank
other
you,
people.
thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Chief.
And Craven
Appreciate it.
Mellon, that's awesome.
Chief, you adapted very well. There you go. All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
Make the motion, we approve the waiver of the open container ordinance for the Alumni Welcome Back Festival, March 25th, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next is to consider approval of the updated lease agreements. Lindsay, you sat down, you could have just,
Rotating.
so we're gonna go through each one, and I'll let you run through each of our nonprofits.
Okay, so how we got here. With my new position that I stepped into in July, one of my duties is I'm now the landlord for all the leased properties that we own, that our nonprofits house. And so I started going through the leases, and all of our leases were expired. They all have a clause in them that goes to month, and so we were fine in that regard, but they needed to be updated. So that is what this is. All the leases, and I'm just going to speak of them as a whole because they're all the same. The intent and the verbiage is all the same as the original lease. All the original leases were before these nonprofits were actually in the building. So it says, for the intent of a child development center, for the intent of a food pantry. So I changed the verbiage to just say, it's a food pantry, it's a, we updated the dates in it. I went through and reviewed their expenses, which is the Exhibit A that was with those leases, that we, as a city, pay for these nonprofits to be in the building, and then their reimbursement that they give us every month to cover these expenses. So what you have is the free clinic and Clemson Community Care, they cover their annual expenses that we need to be compensated for. So their leases, their amounts remain the same. For the Child Development Center, it was really good that we sat down and talked to the Child Development Center, because we realized that we were charging them for things that they were already paying for. We thought it was for the whole building, which they were already paying for their side of the building. So we kind of did some tweaking on the percentage that they're responsible for the electricity, because they pay their own electricity on their wing. They just need to contribute to the cafetorium and the kitchen. So we did some tweaking with that. We realized that they're paying for their closed circuit TV system, and so we've got a closed circuit TV system on the Arts Center side. We're still researching that one, but we were able to pull that off of what we cover for them. And so in the end, shuffling around and having that conversation with them, we were able to reduce their monthly contribution to $14.35 instead of $14.54. All these leases are 10-year leases. The leases were varying. Some were 3, some were 5, some were 10. So they're all 10-year leases with a clause in there that says we will reevaluate their annual expenses every 2 years. We won't do it every year, we'll do it every 2 years, and if we need to adjust their annual monthly reimbursement, we will do so at that time. The CCDC, their board has reviewed the lease and they are comfortable and happy with it. Clemson Community Care has done the same thing, and so has the free clinic. Do you have any questions? It's a lot of information.
I just want to point out one thing on Child Development Center, the maintenance thing. Remember, we came in there
Yes.
and they were just kind of getting help from the city, but it was kind of a freebie almost. And so they got, Lindsay, we're going to start charging them.
We've built in a stipend for Ron and Tim to go over and do the things that they've been doing. That wasn't included in their lease to begin with. It just kind of started happening, and so we were doing it. But even building in that line item on their expenses, we were still able to drop their monthly contribution. So we just cleaned everything up. And what we do is we hold all their payments in escrow, and so when they need a roof, when they need an HVAC system, if they need major repairs, we are able to pull from this fund to cover that. So they don't have to worry about it, and we're not hit with unexpected expenses.
You're a good landlord.
I try. We still have to talk about the Chamber of Commerce and Amtrak, but those are interconnected and a whole lot more gray. So I will be coming back at some point to talk about those two leases.
Any other questions, comments? Very thorough. Thank you.
Do we do these as individual
We
motions?
need to
Yeah.
for each one. So would somebody like to make a motion?
All right, consider approval of an updated lease agreement for the Clemson Child Development Center Community and Economic Development Coordinator. Okay, excuse me.
You just keep on going, John. Stop.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, comments? All in favor on the lease agreement, raise your right hand. Okay. You want to go again, John?
Consider approval of the updated lease agreement for the free clinic as presented.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion, comments? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
Consider approval of the updated lease agreement for the Clemson Community Care as presented.
Second.
All right. Any other comments? All right.
Just a
Yes.
quick
Yep.
one. Just to make sure the minutes are right, we need to delete the word consider. We're not approving, consider.
Approve.
We're
Approve
approving.
it.
We're approving.
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you.
Good point.
Okay.
So now that we've changed it, that actually is going to reflect the other two
Yeah.
as well, Beverly. That's going to reflect the other two as well, because it was said consider, but we are approving these lease agreements as opposed to, okay. So with that, thank you again, Fran. Any other comments? Good point. If you're in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Lindsay. Next, to consider award of a construction bid for North Clemson Sidewalk replacement request for proposal to the low bidder of Southern Concrete Construction. Nathan. Thank
Good
you.
evening, how are y'all doing?
All right, how's it going?
So, for you, we have noticed there's, I guess, a lot of maintenance issues on the sidewalk on North Clemson, also Wigington. The $110,000 is actually coming from a fund. When we took over North Clemson back in 2016, it was about $110,000. There's a few $100,000 in wiggle room, but to say, this was kind of bid as an RFP. It was bid differently because we thought that the price was going to go high and we weren't going to have enough funds to be able to do all of it. And that's the reason that you see a price per square yard without a total maximum, with an actual total bid. We're just trying to reach the dollar amount that we have, and we're going to expend it all on the sidewalk and curb, gutter, and demos, and driveways. So that's the reason there's different line items, and we're going to be paying them as a per unit cost during construction.
I got I guess a question because it's been brought up to me, and then Linda had a comment too, which I found kind of interesting. So there's been a discussion. You gave a quote of $2,500 to put a curve around that little triangular piece there where Wigington and North Clemson come together.
On the west side of the triangle.
If you go up Wigington a ways, there's another piece there, which is kind of a division where the roads go, and that's actually curved. And I was wondering, or Elaine actually was the one that brought up, about that $2,500 to curve that. But then Linda brought up about taking that out completely. I don't know if you heard that or not, Andy. That was where I understood that's what she was saying. Was to make it a T, to take it out in its entirety. So, I mean, is that something that we need to discuss further, or how do we proceed with that?
For this here, that amount of money that he has bid, I would strongly encourage you to put that on those sidewalks, because when he says maintenance issues, he's talking trip hazards, public safety type of issues. Some of those would be nice thing that it's a maintenance issue. There's some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, I wrote down there, so I'm assuming that a lot of the places that are associated with driveways, you'll fix.
Correct.
Because that's been broken down over time and everything. And I also noticed there's some unevenness as far as, I guess, trip hazards, so to speak. And so I assume those you'll fix. But you're not going to be putting in any kind of curbing up and down North Clemson, basically.
There's a small section where North Clemson and, is it Pine? Yeah, North Clemson and Pine, that there's some issues where like a back the curb to try to keep stone from gumming into the sidewalk. Issues where we don't have the valley gutters not in good shape, so we're actually looking to adjust the location of the sidewalk to be able to make sure that the ADA is curb ramps to be in correct locations. There'll be small sections of curb and gutter, but we're not talking about massive replacements. This is just like kind of in locations where we know that we can effectively use it, because curb and gutter has a considerable large cost per linear foot of doing that. And because we have an existing valley gutter that is functional, we don't have, I won't say we don't have any, we have minimal standing water issues, which would cause potential issues during freeze events. The drainage works pretty well in North Clemson, luckily. And so we're trying to maintain the existing valley gutter as best as possible and just replacing the sidewalk.
I know it would be very costly to do it, but from a safety perspective, it seems that the curb, if you could put one in, would help, because people drive relatively fast down through there. Number one, and then number two, if you've got a lot of walkers, and it wouldn't be hard for somebody to leave the road and take out some people walking. I think it's actually happened once before, but without there being a fatality. That's the only thing. I realize it's a lot of money involved. I'm certain to run a curb all the way down North Clemson, but
and like the chief did look at crash data for the intersection, for that where the one-way intersection tees in and we didn't kind of tee in the past 5 years, 2016, so 7 years, there's been no recorded crashes at that intersection. So in Elaine's comment about
She's here, she can speak for herself.
the west side of the west side of the triangle didn't, like, if we have additional funds, I don't see any issue with putting the curbing on the west side of the triangle.
On the west side, okay.
Because on the east side, there is an existing sidewalk, and we're going to remove that because it sends people to a location that doesn't have a curb ramp or anything like that. So, and there's no logical location for the sidewalk to cross and to continue. So we're removing that and putting curb there already.
Okay, I think I get that.
Other questions?
What, I mean, you should like to make comments.
Yeah.
Elaine Richardson, 301 Edgewood Avenue, and I have my residence hat on tonight. And I became a permanent full-time resident in Clemson in 1976 when I bought my first house on Folger Street. And then in 2000, Roy and I were married, and we bought the house around the corner that we're in now on Edgewood. So I've lived in that neighborhood many, many years. I've walked many, many miles on those streets. I've fallen on North Clemson Avenue and broken a tooth before because I tripped on a crack on the sidewalk back when I thought I could run. So the sidewalk needs to be repaired. It's going to be repaired, not replaced. I know we have $110,000 allotted for it, and you want to fix what you can right now. But I really feel like you throw in that money, kind of put a Band-Aid on this problem. It's been a problem for a long time. There needs to be curbs all along that road so that the cars stay in the street. I don't know how many times things have happened on the sidewalk with cars running up there. I do know it was quite a few years ago when 2 international female students were hit from behind. It was a hit and run. They ran up on the sidewalk because there's just about that much of a slope from the sidewalk down to the main road, so there's no protection from the road. That's probably our most heavily traveled pedestrian route in this town to get from town to the west end part of campus and the football games and all of that other kind of stuff. So Linda Dove submitted a request to reconfigure that intersection, and I would support that altogether because I've watched, when I'm walking, I've watched cars, they come from town and there may not have been any accidents there, but they turn right and go up there and immediately accelerate because they don't have a yield sign or a stop sign or anything. They have the right of way to go all the way on Wigington. The ones coming from the west side have to supposed to stop at a stop sign. They don't always do that. So that might be a good thing to think about doing, but it would cost a good bit of money, I think, to do that, to close off that one little road and make that a garden space in there and then have just coming straight down to a T intersection. So what I asked Nathan about, when he explained to me where the money came from and what they were doing and why we were going to move forward with doing that right now. So on the east side of that triangle is a sidewalk that looks like it's about that wide, but I think it's because it's flush. It's like the road, the ground part, the sidewalk, and the road are all on the same level. And so I think stuff has like washed over onto that sidewalk, and it's not used that much anyhow. So I would think what you're doing is taking the sidewalk up and putting a curb down that side. So what I asked him was, if you're going to do that, can we put a curb down the other side too? Because Roy and I and Beth Kunkel, the Doves, the Healy's, a bunch of people that live in that neighborhood over the years have bought plants to go in there. There's some azaleas, there's some Lenten roses, and we don't do a really good job of keeping it up, but we do keep it up, and so we go down, these limbs and stuff picked up in it right now, but it washes out into the road on that side. So I was asking if you could put a curb along that side, and then you've got the sidewalk along North Clemson and curbs on either side, and it kind of defines that area, and then we can do a little bit better job of beautifying it. And my dream is that one day we have a sign in the middle of that says, "Welcome to Clemson Historic West End Neighborhood," because that is one of the main entrances coming down the North Clemson side into that neighborhood, which is the oldest neighborhood in Clemson. Well, maybe not quite the oldest, but one of the oldest in there. So, and that's when Nathan told me it would be like barring any unforeseen problems, it would be like about $2,500 to put that curb. So my question to you is, if he's not able to save $2,600 out of that $110,000 to do that, would you add that much to it so while they're curbing and doing all that work, they can put that curb along that one too?
Nathan, is that a more permanent fix? Because I agree with you about not just putting another temporary fix on something. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what that extra 600 would do.
So what I'm asking about?
Yes.
That's just to make a defined area in that triangle so that we can landscape it a little bit better and keeps it in there. Right now, when people turn in, coming from the west, they run over the plants that are on the edge and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, there's not really anything to
There's
stop
nothing
that.
to define it. We've got
So I
some
was
little
trying to get my
small
bearings straight.
concrete, round concrete brick type things that are right at the top part. And we haven't put anything else down that side, but they don't stay there because cars run into them. They roll because they're raining. I don't know where they came from. They were just there. So that's my request. If we're going to move forward with, I prefer not to do the 110. I prefer to redo the whole thing like it needs to be done. That hadn't been done in 50 years or whatever. I don't know when that sidewalk originally went down. But if we can't take it to that part right now, then can we add a little bit more and fix that so we can make it a little prettier spot? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
That neighborhood has, for years, maintained that park, and they requested, they said, it's kind of an entrance to our neighborhood, and they said, can you give us some water? So we ran a spigot so they can have water, and they've been maintaining it for 10 years or more. So I can see rain washing, mulching things out of there. So when we're doing some of this ARPA work, there's probably going to be curbing, and we could probably get one of those contractors to come over there and run some curb around that island to give it a border and define it.
That would help.
So it's not like an amoeba in the intersection.
So it wouldn't be though out of the 110, it'd be out of the other.
It'd be,
There may be funds available. Funds are available.
we're talking $2,500.
Right, I know.
We're not-
Yeah.
Right, I know it's not like it's going to break the bank.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're sitting there
Just right
talking,
here and authorize them to explore through whatever appropriate, I mean, I think we're kind of making this too complicated.
yeah, I do too.
Approve this and allow them to explore what they need to do to make this right over there.
But I mean, if we're even thinking about making it a T, why, are we, throwing good money after, bad, so to speak?
That was going to be my question. If we were going to make it a T, how much different would it be just to shut that off on North
Right.
right now?
There's a tree in
the
there, right?
project, instead of putting up a curb that we may come in
Yeah,
and tear
tear it
out in
But 25.
6 months.
I know that's more than that, but I mean, still, is there not a tree in that island?
Yes, there is, and I'd like to save that
Well,
tree.
you can't have your T and your tree.
You can.
Sure you can. I think we've taken down enough trees.
You walk over there with me, I'll show you.
Nathan, are we going to be grinding up any roads when we're doing our ARPA projects?
Like, no,
We're not grinding it?
no.
We're just going to overlay.
We're just gonna do overlay. We might do edge grinding, like bare mill grinding, so like it mill an inch so you don't actually raise it. The center grinding is better, but the edge doesn't raise, so you don't actually create any negative effects to property. That might be the only milling that we do.
We're back to investing.
Is the T plan or the T thought a better model than what you're doing? Is that a better solution than what you're suggesting? In which case, I can see the point of why do this twice.
That's a police answer too, I think, from a traffic flow and everything else.
From whatever answer, I guess my thing would be if the T or something similar is a better solution, why would we not do that even a little bit more and go back? But if it's not, that's what I'm asking you, an expert.
So, kind of the general, like, this is the, let me put this is my 30,000 foot engineer view. So this is engineer judgment, which it doesn't, is okay. There is just the turns into that are pretty sharp. So there's actually a lot of rework, and I can't guarantee that there's not right-of-way purchasing that would be required because right-of-way is pretty tight in that area. So either that or you're going to take it directly where that tree is because you've got to completely realign everything. So it's not just removing the one lane road. To be able to do this correctly, to be able to have the alignments, to be able to give your turning radiuses and everything else, it's actually a pretty complicated endeavor. And I promise you that the island will not be what it currently is. And if anything, it will most likely be smaller. And that tree will be gone. That oak tree that exists, I can pretty well guarantee, just because of the construction activities that will be located around it, we're going to take it out. That doesn't mean it can't get replanted, but it is. And I understand. Please understand. I do value trees as a valuable resource, but during construction, it's a whole lot easier to take it out and then replant it even after you replant 5 of them. If you wanted my honest opinion on the T, that's my.
Either have
It's
your
not,
T.
it's not as simple as just
Right.
taking out
Removing a
that
single lane.
right thing. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to do some realignment there to get turning radiuses, so.
Yeah, because we need it needs to be, if we're going to do this, we need to do it correctly.
Bigger picture question.
Yeah.
How much would it cost to do the entire sidewalk and do it all correctly now than patchwork all the way down it?
I think it's,
He needs a calculator.
yeah, I actually do need a calculator.
Carry the one.
Put 500,000 would be my low estimate on it.
And don't hold it.
But that would put a sidewalk and a curve all the way down North Clemson?
Correct.
So basically, it's going to cost us
North Clemson's a
$390,000.
place that needs
No.
water, sewer, infrastructure underneath the road right now, or is it?
So now our new model for sewers, we put in the lane. This is actually under the sidewalk. So and North Clemson does need to be replaced, which is the reason we're not suggesting repaving it. We would redo the sewer work and put it into the road before we repaved it. So this is like the whole refurbishment program that we're looking at doing with ARPA.
But did you say it's under the sidewalk?
It's currently under the sidewalk.
So we're going to replace sidewalk, and then we're eventually going to have to get the sewer pipe rip up the sidewalk that we spent $110,000 on.
We won't rip the sidewalk.
We can do it without taking.
I mean, there'd be
this out.
small sections, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a major section of sidewalk being removed.
And doing this piecemeal approach right now, if we eventually get to the point where we have a proper sidewalk and curbing and everything on North Clemson Avenue, is what we're doing now going to work for that, or are we going to end up redoing the whole thing?
I think it could be made. We could
design
design to be able to use the sidewalk we're going to be installing with this project. If we were to go for a wider sidewalk with curb gutter.
But here's the deal. He said 500. I know that's a guesstimate, but we got 110, so it's really going to cost us $390,000 if you think about it. So I didn't know whether, with all the other money you got coming around, is there any way you'd find it to do it? Why don't we just leave this as something you guys need to look at and investigate more?
I'm going to put this because I've mentioned this before, the connection from the Lutheran Church to Shanklin Sam's Park.
We talked about that.
Not, because that was never finished, so that would be something to kind of just consider too.
There's no real access to Shanklin Sands because it just goes straight to dirt, to grass. There's no park surface for any kind of ADA in that park.
So if we could look at that at the same time, that'd be great. So.
But just to remind us, we do have a sidewalk replacement plan. We have a way for neighbors to request sidewalks. So, in terms of priorities, I think we have to follow the structure that we put up. I don't know if those folks ask for new sidewalks, but there are other places. So, no matter what, I don't think we want to get into business of deciding on a sidewalk here. We have a plan in other neighborhoods that would like sidewalks who aren't at this meeting. So, just a cautionary that.
But I mean,
It's not as simple as just saying we need 390 more to do here, because to do that, you're taking away from somewhere else that we've prioritized ahead of this. This is a safety.
This is more
This is a
safety.
safety issue right here, right now, the way it's set up. So,
And the money was earmarked from SCDOT when we
For
took
this.
it.
yeah, earmark money to take care of a safety issue versus reprioritizing money from other areas that this is probably a lot further down the list on. So.
I get all that, but if we end up doing this and then tearing it up within a few years or doing it differently because we're doing sewer and that kind of thing, no matter what, it's going to be kind of same old stuff, bad decision making happening.
But I agree with what you say, but I also feel like with the speed, the traffic and speed, both vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic on that road. Anything you can do to improve the safety for the pedestrians, I think, I understand what you're saying, but.
But that's true in a lot of places.
Yeah, but it's a miracle somebody hadn't been
You
killed.
do it now, but again, you got to weigh that against wherever you're
Yeah,
going
I
to
know.
take money from to do this.
I got that, yeah.
I mean,
Nathan.
that was the whole purpose of the event. I think it was a good idea to put that plan in place, but it was,
Can you give council, sort of from the design standpoint all the way forward, how much time the whole project might take, just so they have that maybe in their, from the design phase? Because I know you're talking about moving the sewer lines as well, so factor that in and just give them an idea of what time frame you're talking about, given that football season is in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, this is not it's a priority project, but obviously all of our focus right now is on water sewers, all for the ARPA funds for the 7 focus areas. This is probably 2 or 3, if not 4 year on our CIP list for our sewer after the ARPA fund focus areas. So this is multiple years before we're even start working on design before getting this.
so ARPA, another 3 or 4, so you're 10 years out before you're even doing anything in this area. And these, to me, these sidewalks don't need to wait 10 years to be repaired.
Well, yeah, I had one question, and with all of the other things, I know what we're doing is trying to consider, I'm assuming this went out for bid,
It did.
and so now we're trying to decide whether to accept that bid or not.
Correct.
So I guess the question is, if it's earmarked and we have the funds, should we not as a council be dealing with that piece more so? Because what we're talking about is for, I think, a later discussion, but right now what's on the table is whether or not we're accepting, since it already went out for bid, and now we're trying to decide which bid to accept.
And on that note, would somebody like to make a,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we award the construction bid for North Clemson Sidewalk Replacement Request Proposal to the low bidder of Southern Concrete Construction for the amount that would not exceed $110,000, and also have staff, whether it be from these funds or other funds, look for the additional no more than $3,000 to improve the area we discussed on the curving around the T.
Second.
further discussion, comments, questions? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much. Nathan,
Y'all have a good evening.
you got the
Thanks,
shirt
Nathan.
award tonight. Looks good.
That's not what we planned on.
All right, next is, I assume, we're moving on item H. Just making sure, yes, okay. Brandon, make sure. Yeah, I know you said it earlier, so we're taking that off.
That's just in case we need.
Yep, perfect, thank you. Mayor, council reports, comments, new business. Yes.
Just 2 things. One, as Andy said, the council, conversation with council is going to be moved permanently to the 3rd Thursday. If you have places that might be willing to host us, John's one actually suggested CAM, which is a great idea. I think the Clemson Downs one was spectacular. I think 5 were there, 20 or 25 people.
Patrick Square.
Patrick Square.
Patrick Square, I'm sorry, I keep saying.
Don't toss them in the Downs too, they might be offended.
So, but we are going to go to the 3rd Thursday, so if you have other places that might want to host us, other communities that want to host us, hosting just really means you find a room. And that's all it really is. And those are still open to everybody, so that when we're at CAM, that's still a citywide meeting, when we're at Patrick Square. I don't know if Annie's published the January report card for your
Yes.
People were very appreciative. Again, it moved along very quickly. It was really, really good. The question, they did it a different way. They had questions people pre-prepared, so when we got there, they were already written up for us. It was good. The second thing, and I know this might come up later, is that I just want to know, for us to sort of talk more about what is the next step of the Clemson Next plan in general and the downtown plan specifically, from a public transparency perspective. I don't know if we need to talk about that now, but I just think we need to sort of have a
Public game plan.
A public game plan, right? Where we're going, what's the opportunities, next steps. Again, maybe that's for the next agenda, but just something that sort of lays out a roadmap for what happens next, or what happens over sequence of the next month's work.
Excellent. Point. Other comments?
Kind of like a roadmap showing through the end of the final deliverable to get from
If we could.
Well, and by group too, because we still have some questions about transportation and housing and all the other stuff, so, I mean, it's the same stuff that we've talked about. but people need to know what's going on.
Well, you're working on the report, you're working on the report card for the other committee groups, the transportation.
That report card's ready to be published.
Yeah, okay, good. But I just think some notion of where we're going, what's the end point, what are the sort of decision points in the process, what happens, and we have to accept them things, we have to allocate them, what's going to happen and how, and what's the input we get.
Other comments? Good point again. Thank you both. The only thing I'll add, mine's real quick. Scouting for Food was this past weekend, and Clemson Community Care received, see, this shows my age now, 4,600 pounds of food for
Wow.
2 days of the Scouts being out at both Walmarts, thank you Walmart, and Neighborhood Grocery Store, and the Walmart out Central. But between Friday night and Saturday, the collection was 4,600 pounds of food. Tremendous. So I know Karen Carter would say that's a great start of the year, and I know they rely on that very much for Clemson Community Care. So thank you to Troop 235 and Troop 161. Thank you both for doing that for our community, as well as the many volunteers. Is that it? Anything else? I'm looking around. Okay. We'll move into next is the executive session. We're looking at discussing a personnel review and applicants for boards and commission appointments. South Carolina Code Section 3470, discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, or release of an employee. And the second item on our executive session was discuss uptown redevelopment, land acquisition, planning, and negotiation, South Carolina Code of Law, Section 3470, in discussion of negotiations, incident, proposed contractual agreements, proposed sale or purchase of property that has been postponed until our next meeting. So, with that, would somebody like to make a motion to go into executive session?
I move we go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, everybody in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we will be back. I can't say when.
I saw one over here.
Thank you, Rick. All right, we're gonna bring this back here. Would somebody like to make a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Let's see, who's going to?
I would like to
There we
make
go.
a motion that we appoint Ryan Dean as the student representative from Clemson University to the Police Advisory Board.
Second.
Any further comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
I would like to make a motion that we appoint David Allison and Christine Tedesco to the Board of Architectural Review.
Second.
Any further discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. And would somebody like to make a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all raise your right hand. All right. Have a